Quick update from Afghanistan on airplanes and our colleagues at the Humanitarian Air Service, which, as you know, is operated by the World Food Program. Excuse me. Let's start again. All right. In Afghanistan, the UN Humanitarian Air Service, operated by the World Food Program, is resuming flights to enable 160 humanitarian organizations to continue their life-saving activities in Afghanistan's provinces. The air passenger service is currently linking Islamabad to Mazar-i-Sharif and Kandahar, with 3 flights already having taken place to Mazar-i-Sharif since the 29th of August. WFP says all efforts are being made to step up operations as soon as possible and increase the numbers of flown to destinations in Afghanistan. In addition, a cargo airbridge is being established to transport non-food items, such as medical and other emergency supplies, to where they're needed the most. UNHAS is a domestic passenger service, requires $18 million and $12 million is required for the cargo airbridge. Both services will be utilized by the entire humanitarian community. From 2002 to 2021, the UN's Humanitarian Air Service in Afghanistan served more than 20 destinations in the country. It will seek to return to these locations once security and funding permits. And in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the UN mission there reports that yesterday unidentified assailants ambushed a civilian convoy of approximately 100 vehicles that was being escorted jointly by UN peacekeepers and the Congolese military. This happened near Ofe, which is southwest of Bunia in the Ituri province. Our colleagues there, along with the Congolese troops, responded by opening fire against the assailants. A UN quick reaction force was also dispatched to the scene. The incident resulted in at least 4 civilians killed and 16 vehicles burnt. Peacekeepers said there were no casualties for UN personnel or damage to UN assets. UN peacekeepers and Congolese army have been escorting civilian convoys between the towns of Komanda and Luna, that's about 40 kilometers north of Beni, since August 7th. They started doing this following an increase in threats posed by the ADF group in the area. The mission said today they're determined to continue this joint activity with the Congolese army, reiterating it is essential to the population and the humanitarian community. Moving on to Ethiopia, in a statement issued today, the acting humanitarian coordinator for Ethiopia, Grant Leahy, warned that with the inability to bring in sufficient and sustained level of humanitarian supplies, cash and fuel, the humanitarian situation in the north of the country is set to worsen dramatically, particularly in Tigray. Mr. Leahy noted that an estimated 5.2 million people, 90% of the population across the Tigray region, urgently needs humanitarian assistance. He said millions are on the brink of going hungry, including 1.7 million people in the bordering areas of the Afar and Amhara regions. Mr. Leahy pointed out that while the humanitarian access is now viable and secure inside most of Tigray, the region remains under a de facto humanitarian aid blockade, where access to bring life-saving humanitarian relief continues to be extremely restricted. Stocks of relief items, cash, and fuel are running very low or are completely depleted in certain locations. Food stocks already ran out on August 20th. The acting humanitarian coordinator stressed that the lives of millions of civilians in Tigray and neighboring regions of Afar and Amhara depend on our capacity to reach them with food, nutrition supply, medicine, and other critical medical supplies. And our colleagues at the Office of Children in Armed Conflict told us that new action plans were signed between the UN and the platform, and this is concerning Mali, between the UN and the platform, a coalition of armed movements in Mali. With these action plans, the platform has committed to releasing all children present in its members' ranks. They've also committed to end military use of schools and to guarantee unimpeded delivery of humanitarian assistance to all children. Ms. Gamba, our special representative of children in armed conflict, has called on the international community to support reintegration activities for the children, emphasizing that these services, which include psychosocial support and access to education, are essential to help boys and girls fully regain their place in communities and society as a whole. The platform has been listed in the annexes of the Secretary General's annual report of children on conflict since 2018. A COVID note, the World Health Organization said today 42 of Africa's 54 countries are set to miss the goal of vaccinating the world's most vulnerable people, the world's most vulnerable 10% against COVID by the end of September. Almost 21 million COVID-19 vaccines arrived in Africa through the COVAX facility in August alone. This is an amount equal to the previous 4 months combined. And the African, with more vaccines expected from COVAX and the African Union by the end of September, WHO says there's a possibility that enough doses could be delivered to meet the 10% target then. As more doses arrive, African countries have to move forward their plans to rapidly vaccinate the millions of people that still face a grave threat from COVID-19. This was said by Dr. Moeti, WHO's regional director. Currently, 39 million people, that's around 3% of Africa's population, is fully vaccinated. And a more local note this time from the Philippines. Philippines has received 13.2 million vaccine doses from COVAX facility. As of August 22nd, the country has administered more than 30 million doses. Our team, under the leadership of Gustavo Gonzalez, has been supporting the government, including through use of digital tools for contact tracing in cities with a high number of cases and leading risk communications and community engagement. Our colleagues at the Food and Agricultural Organization in Rome said the global food commodity prices rebounded rapidly in August after 2 consecutive months of decline. This was led by strong gains in the international price quotations for sugar, wheat, and vegetable oils. FAO was up by 3.1% in July, and the FAO Food Price Index was up 3.1% from July and 32.9% from the same month last year. Clean Air, the UN Environment Program today launched a report which says that 1/3 of the world's countries have no legal mandated outdoor air quality standards. That's a lot of countries. Where the law exists, standards vary widely and often misalign with WHO guidelines. The report also says that at least 31% of countries do have the power to introduce air quality standards, have yet to adopt them. The report is online, and we are now up to 126 member states who have paid up their budget dues in full. One country is from the Caribbean, the other one from West Africa, and they are both double-barreled names. Trinidad and Tobago is one. Now another double-barreled name from West Africa. Come on, guys. No? Guinea-Bissau. All right, Edie, you won 50% of the prize money, so you get to ask half a question. Go ahead.
Thanks, Steph. Does the Secretary General have any comment on the meeting today between the President of Egypt, Jordan's king, and the Palestinian president aimed at reviving the Middle East peace process? Was the UN involved in any way?
We very much welcome the meeting of these 3 leaders. We hope it will lead to a positive outcome and a regain of traction of diplomacy in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I'm not aware that we're present, but I can check. Amanda.
Thanks, Steph. On Afghanistan, can you provide any update on the fighting in Panjshir Valley? That seems to be continuing, intensifying. And what's the Secretary General's message to the Taliban and the other parties engaged in the fighting there?
obviously, any continued fighting is of great concern to us, making a humanitarian situation that's difficult even worse. Obviously, it increases the issues of access for us. I think the message that it's very important for, as in any conflict, for the parties to avoid targeting civilians, avoiding civilian casualties, as well as the destruction of civilian infrastructure. Okay, Iftikhar.
Thank you, Steph. Was the UN building impacted in any way by this deluge last night?
We're very fortunate to have no major impact from the storm yesterday, and I would say, I would add that we also extend our condolences to the families of all the victims from this horrendous weather yesterday. You know, the UN headquarters is situated in New York. New York is our community as well, and when New York is impacted, I think we're all impacted.
Secondly, Steph, I may have missed it, but I did not hear Kabul airport when you mentioned the resumption of flights from Islamabad by WFP to various airports in Afghanistan.
That is very correct, Iftikhar. That airport is not yet operational for us, at least. We obviously very much hope that it will be in the near future. I think it's access to airports throughout Afghanistan is very important, given the difficulty of often traveling by road, and obviously the airport in Kabul is indeed very important for us to be able to rotate staff and bring in goods.
Thank you.
Okay. Dulcie. Dulcie?
Yeah, hi. Can we get an update on the number of international staff, the UN staff in Afghanistan, and national staff? Thanks.
It has not fluctuated in any major or minor way that I'm aware of. We've not had. I think we flagged last weekend a relocation flight, and there's been none since. Okay, Vusula.
Hi, Mr. Dujarric. I have two questions. The first one, in Afghanistan, there are still some government forces resisting Taliban. What's the UN position in this struggle? My second question is about journalists in the region. The Taliban officials said there wouldn't be any problem with journalists working in the field. Are you keeping in touch with them? In the UN prepares any measures regarding the safety of the journalists who are there now, or will go in future?
I think on your first part, I addressed it when Amanda asked the question in the beginning. On your second part, journalists provide a critical service in any society. It is incumbent on the authorities in place, on the Taliban, to ensure that journalists are able to do their work. Women journalists are able to do their work free of fear and harassment. It is part of the bedrock of any society. And I do know that my colleagues on the ground in Kabul remain in touch with Afghan journalists and international journalists who remain in Kabul and Afghanistan. Okay. Thank you all, and see you tomorrow.